Hi, friend. Jean here with a quick invitation for you before we jump into today's episode. Registration for the Tepper Teacher Training 2026 is now open. If you've ever wished you could spend a weekend with other homeschooling parents who truly understand this journey, this is for you. Join us August 6th through 9th in Northeast Ohio for 4 days of hands-on workshops, the lively arts, meaningful conversations, and time in nature. This year marks our 20th anniversary. What a special time to gather with me and the Taproot team of experienced homeschooling mentors. It's a chance to reconnect with your purpose and bring more creativity and confidence to your homeschool. If that sounds like something you need, we'd love to have you join us. You can find all the details and register at artofhomeschooling.com/taproot. You're listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Art of Homeschooling podcast. I'm Jean, and if you've ever found yourself grappling with the question of school versus homeschooling, and haven't we all at some point, right? Then you're going to love this conversation today. I am joined by Mandy Davis of Homebuilt Education, a former school principal who made the decision to step away from the traditional education system and homeschool her own 3 children. And now she helps homeschooling parents rethink what education can look like, sharing mindset shifts, practical tools, and a really refreshing perspective on education. What I'm looking forward to most in this conversation is that both Mandy and I stepped away from a traditional school setting to homeschool our children. And today, the two of us are going to have an opportunity to talk about what changes when you leave the system, right? What parents often need to unlearn, how to trust yourself and your child in a whole new way. And we're also going to talk about Mandy's new book, The Homeschool Bible, Everything You Need to Build a Thriving Home Education, which just came out a few weeks ago. I can't wait to share this conversation with you, so let's dive in. Hello, Mandy, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jean. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. And I love that you've seen education from both sides. I don't get to have this conversation with too many people, starting as a school principal and then making the decision to homeschool your children. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your journey into homeschooling. So let's start there. What was happening for you in your life, in your family's life, when you realized that you couldn't continue in mainstream education any longer, and when you began thinking about homeschooling?
It was really a long journey for me. I went through the public school system myself. And as a child, if you saw me as a student on paper, I would look very successful. I got good grades. I was very quiet. I did well on state testing. I did well in class. If you sat down and talked to me personally, it was a difficult journey. I went through a lot of bullying and a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. I didn't realize it then, but learning was very performative. It was work to look like the good student and get the good grades. And it was a pressure that was just building and building and building. And it's what encouraged me to become a teacher, because I wanted to create a better environment for my students. I wanted all students to understand each of you can learn. Each of you is safe here. Each of you is here to be on your own journey. And getting into the classroom as a 22-year-old out of college, it was very clear in that first handful of years that all of my goals, they were not actually a part of the profession. And I worked with some phenomenal administrators, phenomenal teachers, but there was really nothing we could do because I was put on this track and on this pace to get all of my students to get the grades, to get all of my students to pass the test. There was no time. I had 26 fifth graders at the time. They ranged from special needs in a variety of subjects all the way up to gifted and advanced learners in the same room, where I was very clearly instructed to get everyone to the middle as quickly as possible so we could keep moving.
It's so challenging now. It makes me sad because I was so idealistic when I came out of graduate school. And it makes me sad because I thought I could make such a difference.
It is. It's such a weight that teachers are continuing to carry today that I saw in my teachers when I was a principal. Comparing it back to when I was a student, again, as a teacher on paper, I was doing everything right. I was successful and I had a strong classroom, great grades, but it was lacking. And if you actually look at the experience on the inside as a whole, everything that I had believed in my mission to educate was reduced to the point where I had to look for bigger answers. Okay, if I can't actually impact my classroom, at what point can I make a difference? And that's why I got into administration. So again, kind of taking that next step and truly believing I'm not able to impact my classroom. However, if I get to administration, if I could become an assistant principal, a principal, then I could make the policy, the changes, slowing down, bringing more recess and movement, and having more parents involved. This was the next set of idealistic thinking that once got to that level and I jumped right in as school principal, I quickly realized it was not actually reality. Yeah. So I had moved from 22 out of college, no kids yet, not yet married teacher. And then all the way up when I got to the level of school principal, I now had a family and motherhood changed everything as well. I mean, I would look back to my early years teaching and think, gosh, I just didn't have the mindset. I wasn't yet a mother. It just shifted everything.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so at this point, not only becoming a school principal, but I was the principal at my daughter's school.
Wow.
I was just ready and all in. And I was kept arm's length away from their classrooms and their education and making changes to their everyday. And that was my line. Because if I'm their principal at their school and I can't make an impact to their learning in any sense, then what hope do other parents here have?
Yes. Oh.
Because I'm in the building, I'm next to them. And the biggest part of it was my name on the door. My name was on the door, but that's about it. Because just red tape across when it came to actual impact. If I can't make a difference with my child sitting right there within reach, who can?
It's fascinating. I came in with that really strong sense of hope too. And for me, so I was a high school English teacher in a public school outside of Atlanta before having children. Same thing. I'm in my 20s. I'm fresh out of grad school. I'm very idealistic. And I quickly became really discouraged because I was teaching juniors and seniors and one sophomore class. And just the spark of creativity was gone from their eyes. They just had this dullness in their eyes, and it was so disheartening to me. And that mission that we share of like wanting to make a difference and feeling stopped at every turn, it is really, really discouraging. And it was similar for me. Once my husband and I had kiddos, we decided to homeschool. Not immediately. I thought they would go to the local public school. We'd all have summers off. I'd walk them to school, the neighborhood school. But when we visited schools, our oldest probably would have been, I always described him as he was the gifted behavior problem. And so I went and observed, and it just was like, I came home and told my husband, this isn't going to work. We need some other alternative. And that's when we started homeschooling. So it's interesting to me because I really thought that that was my path. Being a teacher in a local public school, that's what I believed in my heart. And I thought that's what the direction my life would take. And then, no, I'm so grateful for all those years we had together.
Just a slight non sequitur, because I think you understand this too. Something they never told me at university was actually how teaching, administration, anything in education is just very hard to find balance when you're also a parent. I didn't realize how much I was going to need to sacrifice. I mean, I would come home completely touched out from all day in what I experienced as a pretty toxic environment. I'd come home running on empty, and that was my time with my children. And with that, we're missing field day, we're missing field trips, we're missing first days and last days and special classroom time. And it's crazy. Even when one of the kiddos was sick, it's like, okay, well, then I'm going to have to scramble and find a sub if I leave or, however that is. But that was something I wasn't expecting. Because I was the same thinking, gosh, the summer's off together and the break's off. And it just never panned out the way that I had hoped.
Yeah, the way we envisioned. So I'm curious to hear you describe what you feel like you had to unlearn then about teaching, about learning when you began your homeschooling journey.
Oh, so much.
Yes.
So much. I mean, I think that the easiest response when I share that I homeschool and it's followed up with any clue into I was in education is, oh, that makes sense. Oh, you were a teacher. Oh, you were okay. So that makes sense that you homeschool, but most can't. My goodness, you know what? I would argue that it is harder coming as a former educator into homeschooling because we had ingrained in us the bell schedule, the data points, what we have to measure, what we have to manage. And even the word curriculum itself, it's just different when you come from an institutionalized educational space to bringing it home. It's so different. Really had to intentionally unlearn everything.
Oh my gosh, so much. I can't wait to talk more about curriculum in just a moment because it's a favorite topic of mine. But first, I just want to say that my recollection of grad school was follow the curriculum, keep children on task. Those were the main messages that were drilled into us as we were learning to become teachers. And there was no conversation about individualization, about having the curriculum be at all flexible. That just wasn't part of the conversation. There wasn't even a conversation about alternative approaches. We homeschooled inspired by the Waldorf approach, and there was no mention of that in my graduate school program whatsoever. I found it early on, and the reason I was so attracted to it was sort of the opposite of what I had learned in graduate school, that it was very hands-on, very engaging. It honored the preservation of childhood, that mistakes are opportunities to learn. There were just so many things about it that really drew me in. I just had to unlearn so much.
Yes.
It's such a big change. Choosing to homeschool is a really, really big decision. And it's not just logistically, but I think mentally also. That's one of the things that I appreciate about the Homeschool Bible is conversations around mindset and how we gain confidence in ourselves to do this really important work. So how would you describe the biggest mindset shifts that parents need to make when they choose either to leave the system or just begin homeschooling from the beginning? What are those mindset thoughts?
The first big one that comes to mind is comparison. Comparison is just so normal in our school system when it comes to first just grades, comparing where marked milestones are, where marked data points are when it comes to is a child progressing at what is called normal. There's comparison of a student A to student B. There's comparison to even in our homeschools, what we're doing. Are we keeping up with home B's homeschooling? So eliminating comparison in the sense of how we're wired to think of a traditional school day and letting comparison lead is huge because it takes out that idea that there is some gleaming correct model that we're working toward when really we want to be working aside of our children, of our child in how they best learn. And it's just a completely different journey.
Yeah, I describe that often to homeschooling parents that in a classroom, it sounds so subtle to describe this, but it's so huge that in a classroom, a teacher's job is to try to bring the highest percentage of students up to a certain level. And in the homeschool setting, our job is to look at the children in front of us and look at what they need and help them make progress. And it's so dramatically different.
It really is.
And those benchmarks and data points are so much what drives.
Oh, absolutely. It's so wonderful as a homeschool parent being able to actually realistically look at what progress is. Because progress is not coming up from the very bottom to the middle. Progress is not coming from just, 2 points off the middle to the middle. Wherever your child is, progress is growth. And it just looks different for everyone, which makes the learning so much more fluid and relaxed.
So much more relaxed. And that was one of my huge mindset shifts was even though I chose to homeschool, like you said, I think we've been trained as educators for a traditional classroom. It's almost a bigger leap, I would say. For me, it was still really hard to not feel like I was supposed to follow the curriculum exactly. You purchase a curriculum, you follow it. That was my mindset, even though I knew that the reason we were homeschooling was to be able to do what you're describing, look at the children and help them make some progress. But it was hard for me to let go of some things, to follow my child's interests sometimes and just let go of the plan completely. To be able to be more flexible really took some time for me as a homeschooler and became one of the things that I appreciated the most about it in the long run.
Truly. I always say that I'm a recovering completionist. It's one of those things when you see the worksheet in front of you, you want to see every box neatly checked, but it's just unnecessary. And in learning, we're to the point now where, my 12-year-old picks up her math book and actually we get to a new chapter and she already understands the first 3 pages, skip it. But it was hard to get there from a completionist mindset of, but the curriculum says to do it. No, wait a minute. My child doesn't need it. And that's drastically different than in the classroom.
It is drastically different. And I so appreciate you underscoring that because it's a real trap for many of us. I too, I'm a rule follower. And I think a lot of us who are attracted to the field of education are that way.
So too.
For different reasons, but I'm a recovering completionist as well. Homeschoolers are so surprised when I say this. Here's a list of things that you would like for your child to know or learn about this year. But if they already know them, you don't have to cover them. You're good. So let's talk about curriculum because I'm always encouraging parents to customize, to personalize, even design their own curriculum if they're comfortable doing so. I feel like there's so much less pressure and it's better for learning because we are actually looking at what our children need. I love this quote from your book, from the Homeschool Bible. Homeschooling is not a one-size-fits-all endeavor, and there is no single right way to do it. By defining your educational philosophy and crafting a mission that aligns with your family's vision, you are taking the first steps toward creating a homeschool experience that is meaningful, fulfilling, and truly your own. We share that. There's just no one right way. That's an important message, I think. So I'm curious, do you see parents getting stuck in that curriculum trap, trying to find the right curriculum and thinking that that's all they need to do? You find the curriculum and then you follow it and you're done. I hear that a lot.
Yes, very firm. Yes. I very strongly believe all children can learn and all parents can homeschool. And I think anytime a parent thinks, I don't know if I could, most likely that means they haven't been shown what's possible. Because first internalize that idea of, could I homeschool? The first thing that usually comes to mind is, I need to teach my kids. And then you're going to go to the model of thinking that's surrounding our culture. Could I replace school? No. So no, you can't replace school, and we're going to be thankful for that. And instead, we're going to build an education. On the flip side, I talk to a lot of parents that say, what's the best curriculum? What's the best curriculum? Okay, I'm going to do this, but tell me, what curriculum are you using? You don't want to use my curriculum. My curriculum is for my kids, and it's based on their interests and our beliefs in our home and what we want to be teaching. And you can build your own. There's not one right answer. And there's also not a choice that is going to set you behind. You're not going to choose a curriculum. Oh, you know what? Math curriculum wasn't good as this other company's offering. I think they're going to fall behind. There's no behind. Any curriculum, which is just the skeleton of learning, can work. And to the flip side of that, our schools, they have a traditional curriculum. The academic books that they choose, which I can share, are not as readily kept up with, are not as quickly changed or even reviewed once they're set in place. But there's also a lot of curriculum underneath the surface happening. That's not going to happen in your house. From the idea of, I need to be compliant, from the idea of, I need to be like everyone else, from the idea of obeying first and raising our hand and following the pace of somebody else. These are all things that we get to break.
Yes. So grateful for that. I know I fell into this trap too, but it's so interesting because when parents ask me that these days, like, what curriculum should I buy? What curriculum should I buy? And I find myself saying it almost doesn't matter. Because you can use parts of it, you can combine, you can use library books, there are so many ways to create engaging learning experiences. And so I find that when parents are stuck in that searching for the right curriculum, that actually undermines their trust in themselves. Being able to look at curriculum as a resource is a huge first step, as opposed to something that we have to follow exactly.
Right. The curriculum's not going to make your homeschool. You are. And a lot of times too, ask yourself, what's most important here in terms of bringing a curriculum into our homeschool? Is it price? Is it how much time for prep for me? Or how much time I really want to spend researching this best program? Is there a specific interest? It really just comes down to your child, your family, and your own needs.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that somewhere, I'm not sure if it's in the book or I've heard you say this on social media, but I wrote this down at some point because I share this so much. But just this idea that curriculum is foundational, but far from the whole picture, right? It's really just the starting point.
Absolutely.
I have this question about a common myth among homeschooling parents, which is that homeschooling leads to social isolation. And I love your conversation. Just the phrase alone about creating a vibrant social network is so empowering. So what are some ways that homeschooling families can create a social network for our kiddos?
First, I just have to mention homeschool parents, parents that send kids to private or public or charter. Any parent, not just homeschool, any parent is responsible for the socialization of their children. So these are not tips just for homeschoolers. These are for all parents. Now, homeschoolers carry that weight a lot heavier because they think about it a lot more, because there are so many myths surrounding homeschooling in this day and age when it comes to socialization. My husband and I, we talk about socialization now 1,000,000 times more than we did when our kids were in school. We're not doing anything different. We're still including our kids in youth group and church activities, volunteer experience activities that they like, that we set around our family's boundaries, sports, music, mentorships. They just have more time. And so, if anything, we're out more. And so, it's funny to me to combat this myth so often, but I feel like it's just kind of that last leg that a society's working to stand on of saying, well, homeschooling might not do this when really it's 2026. I feel like we've just batted this one down.
Yes, and it's fascinating to me because we started homeschooling in the 1990s. And I just remember the moment when all these cultural organizations in the area started offering classes during the day for homeschoolers. So museums and nature centers. And so it wasn't just field trips. You could go and take the class at the art museum that had only been offered on Saturday mornings was now offered during the week. And so that time factor, I think, is so important. I just don't remember socialization ever being a problem. And my kids got older. My daughter was really into destination imagination, which is this really interesting problem-solving competition. And my son did mock trial, just like a group of students at a school might do. I mean, there are just so many opportunities, and youth group and the community center sports. And so I agree with you. It's not a distinction that is anyone needs to worry about anymore.
Right. And if anything, I wish we could, as a whole society, shift this conversation to all parents, just as a reminder that our school's focus is not building healthy socialization and habits there. And just really thinking about that, because as this is a responsibility to all parents, even when I'm questioned in person on this from even a well-intentioned stranger, it's the first question that I just flip back. And a lot of the times they say, I don't have to worry because my child's in school. Well, let's just talk a little bit then about what does proximity look like versus healthy socialization and so forth. So I wish as a society we could more so open the socialization conversation to our parents today, all becoming aware of what is healthy socialization and am I promoting that within my home?
Yes, instead of assuming that because my children are in school, they're getting healthy socialization. I would totally question that. So I like that, broadening it. It is our responsibility as parents.
Absolutely.
Let's bring this into the day to day. What does a good homeschooling day look like in your home, and how do you balance structure and flexibility?
Gosh, every single day is different. Now, we have a rhythm. We definitely have a rhythm. We start with a devotional, we start with breakfast. I would say that our homeschooling day revolves around anchors of food. Breakfast time, lunchtime, snack time, dinner time. And it's because those times are predictable and it gives all three of my kids a sense of knowing what's coming and what will fit in between those anchors. The mornings have always been our strongest time for academics until my oldest became a teenager. And she now has just noticed that with her sleep patterns and circadian rhythm, her best focus time is in the afternoon. So while she does more electives in the morning, I can focus in with my little guy and his activities in the early morning, and then with my 12-year-old as well. We have always used a very family style approach to learning. We come together at a large table, our schoolroom table, our kitchen table. That does not mean I'm adjusting lessons to each level. It just means we're all working together. I'm right there and readily available. We call it family style learning because we're together as a family, even if we're all working on different things. So it's not quite parallel, but we're all together. We have a lot of activity and we have a lot of outings. We have a lot of random disruptions to our day that we just ebb and flow and go with it. In the cold months, we play a lot of learning games, a lot of board games, and a lot of reading by the fire because I am cold all the time. And then as it warms up, our day completely implodes because everyone, including myself, wants to be outside. So we will get outside as much as we can and we'll come back to the learning. The formal learning is minimal. Something that's talked about so much is how long does it take for you to
Oh,
homeschool?
yeah.
And it's just a part of life. So the formal, I call it the formal instruction, the sit down, read it, sit down, do it, let me explain it to you with my 4-year-old is 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's learning. And people say, how do you get, how 10 to 15 minutes? We're still reading books. We're still doing art. We're playing outside. We're going on a nature walk. We are playing board games. But I'm talking about that focused instruction, 10 to 15 minutes. And then when it comes to my older girls, my 12-year-old is about at an hour to 2 hours max. And my teen is at 3 hours max. And that's just kind of how we flow. And that's not even a hard max in terms of hours, because again, I'll look at it outside. Well, we're going to be outside today. And so we'll catch up tomorrow.
So similar. So I also have 3 kiddos, and the older two, boy, girl, are mine.
Oh, we're flipped.
Yeah, I know. And the older two are very close in age. And then there are 8 years before the
I love that. Oh, I love that so much. That's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And I talk a lot about rhythm. I'm a simplicity parenting family life coach. So the book, The Movement, Simplicity Parenting, Kim John Payne talks a lot about anchor points in your day and how that can help you create your rhythm. And it's exactly as you described, of meal times and bedtime. Those are the times that we can consider, and sometimes rest time in the afternoon, perhaps, or read aloud time. I mean, you can add other anchor points in there, but it is a great framework for then slotting in when more formal learning is going to happen, when a nature walk could happen, when other activities can fit. And it does shift as our children get older.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love those sections in your books, in the Homeschool Bible. And then there is also a parent's planner companion. I love those sections about crafting a daily rhythm and a weekly rhythm. I think those are really, really helpful.
Oh, great. Yes.
So some parents who are listening might be having some doubts. We all have doubts sometimes. So have you had seasons in your homeschooling journey that felt really hard? What helps you keep going when you're feeling like things aren't going smoothly for you?
Something I wasn't prepared for was how difficult year one felt. And looking back and after talking to many homeschool moms, year one is harder than any other year. And it's not because the work is hard, it's the mindset and the new trust that you're going to put into yourself and not outsource to a system, to a school, to somebody else. I don't think that my husband and we were definitely on the same page. Okay, we're going to homeschool. But I wish we would have had some other conversations as well. How can we support one another on the hard days? We didn't have that conversation ahead of time. And so what happened a lot in our year one was I would have a really hard day and he'd come home. And what I needed was a rock to remind me, like, this is normal and we've got this and it's okay. But sometimes he would lean to finding a solution like, maybe this isn't for us. And then that would just build the doubt in my head. Oh my goodness, he doesn't think we can do this either. Okay. And we went in a cycle with it where then he would have doubts. And I'm looking at my partner and my love, and I'm thinking, maybe we can't. And we would just kind of fuel each other in the wrong direction. So what we realized was that we needed to get on the same page in how to support one another as mom and dad homeschooling. And once we got on that same page, a lot of things became easier.
That's such a good description, because most of us have been there where we're fueling each other's doubts. And at the moment when we need them to be standing strong, and not feeding our doubts. Yeah, it's a dance for sure. And especially in the beginning, as you say. For us, we had a really challenging year. So the year that our youngest was born, in the fall, I was really sick and bedridden. And in the spring, she came early. And that year, it felt so hard at the time. And so many people said, oh, well, you're going to put them in school now, aren't you? The boys, the older two. And no, we're not. So for me, in retrospect, it's such a fun story to tell now because I feel like they learned how to change an IV dressing and take care of a sick mama and
Yeah.
how to cook eggs because they got tired of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Where babies come from, they learned that year too. And then we did a lot of phonics games and reading aloud and math games. And so those skills, I mean, I had about 20 minutes in me a day, that I could focus. And I mean, we got a lot of help from friends and family and the community. But looking back on that year, I think, well, that was the curriculum.
The life skills, the compassion, the being able to witness their mama and
Yeah.
her strength. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful.
It really was a meaningful time for our family as I look back. So let's zoom out for just a minute. And I would love to ask you this question about the world of education as a whole. So, what gives you a sense of hope right now when it comes to homeschooling families?
Oh gosh, so much. I feel like we've reached this turning point. More and more families are leaving the school system. More and more families are talking about school choice before their kids are of school age. And parents are actively learning and wanting to learn more about the educational experience they can provide for their children. And I think that's huge. That's all of the hope right there. What's happening in our school system, and I feel like I can say this year, I could have said it last year, we could have said it 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The changes we need today, they're not going to happen in our children's academic lifetime. And there's a lot going on in the world today. The school system is a cruise liner and it moves very slow and it pivots directions very slow. And then you can look and see homeschoolers on these speedboats, and we can just make sharp turns and go wherever we need to protect our children, to teach our children, to bring them up to the pace of the world, to slow the world down to their pace of childhood. We can go that speed and make those turns as necessary. And with more and more parents coming to that realization, this movement of homeschooling is not going to slow down.
Mm-hmm. Such a good image. I love that. The cruise ship and the speedboat that's very helpful. And I think that your book is just so helpful at encouraging parents who want to slow down and really personalize an education, build an education for their own children, spend time learning with their children and create holistic homeschooling experiences. It's so important. It's a great conversation. So let's talk about the book or the books. Let's talk about the books. So the Homeschool Bible, everything you need to build a thriving home education. It comes with a companion parents planner.
I love seeing all your tabs.
I have my books in front of me with all of my little post-it note tabs inside for sections that I just loved. And I think the book is full of practical advice for navigating the homeschooling journey with confidence. And confidence is so huge. I really think that's what so many parents long for or feel like is missing. And to have someone give them the message like this book does, like, you can do it. And here is how step by step you can write a mission statement for your family. You can create a daily rhythm for your family. It's just so helpful. There are sections on legal foundations and educational philosophy, designing your own curriculum, as I said, and even assessing the progress. Here's another favorite quote of mine that I just want to share from the book. Homeschooling provides you the freedom to create a learning plan that not only accommodates, but also celebrates your child's individuality. So beautiful. And really what we all want for our children. I also love the reflection questions in the book. In each section of the book, there are beautiful questions that aren't too broad. You know, sometimes you read reflection questions and it seems like, I don't know how to answer that. They're very helpful questions, I will say.
Good.
And then you share some personal stories as well. So I wonder if you could just share one of the biggest surprises on your homeschooling journey, like something that you didn't see coming.
I don't think I ever expected how beautifully life-changing it was going to be for me and my motherhood. I went into homeschooling for the kids. We're going to give them the childhood that they deserve. We're going to provide a rich education, and we're going to make it a part of our life. And in year one already, I watched small transformations in their confidence. My girls did well in school, but school was not great for them. And I just watched them shift. Slowly, I was shifting too. And just a completionist, a perfectionist, a rule follower, someone who had been chasing gold stars her entire life, even if those gold stars came at the cost of anxiety and mental health and physical health. And for the first time, I felt an overwhelming peace and an overwhelming happiness. And I was not expecting that.
That is so beautiful. You know, I think about my own children now who are in their 20s and 30s and have life partners. And we have one granddaughter and two more on the way this summer with different boys. And it's just so fascinating to watch them navigate the world as adults. This is one of the things that I really wanted the most. And now here I am, and I get to witness it all the time, that when they are interested in something, they know how to go out and learn how to do it. Whether it's fermenting vegetables or constructing a garage, right? My oldest built his whole garage. I mean, it's just fascinating to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And the other piece that you're describing about how much I changed on the journey and how much learning to become a human being. I don't know how else to say it, but it was such an opening for me to homeschool my children. So wonderful. So where can listeners connect with you, learn more about your books and your homeschooling journey?
Yes, you can find me daily on Instagram at Homebuilt Education, and you can visit thehomeschoolbible.com, and the books are now available on christianbook.com, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, anywhere that sells books.
That's wonderful. And I will be sure to put links to everything in the show notes for this episode, which listeners you can find at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 253. So I have one final question for you. We will end with this one. And that is, what is one piece of advice that you want to leave our listeners with today?
I would say if you're not already homeschooling, try it. There's not going to be any pushback that you can't go back to the form of schooling that you were doing before homeschooling. But you won't know homeschooling and you won't fully understand all educational options until you try it. And there's no loss in trying it. And then for those who are already homeschooling, take a look at your day as you have it laid out right now. And don't reinvent, don't add in more on your plate, but just look, what is a part of your homeschooling day that gives you that spark? And just do that more. I noticed myself, I had certain periods in the week that I'd really look forward to. My kids and I call it our sparks. Why weren't we doing that every day? So we brought art in every single day because we all love it and it gives us our spark.
That's so great. And I would just add a little tiny bit to that the confidence grows, right, as you go along. And yes, to follow the sparks, even your own. So thank you, Mandy, just so much for joining me today. This has been such a rich conversation. And all the best to you with the launch of the Homeschool Bible. It's such a beautiful book and a beautiful planning companion that helps homeschooling parents think through how to design a personalized homeschooling plan education for their children while at the same time giving parents permission to trust themselves and lead with confidence. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jean. Thank you.
And dear listeners, here is a message for you that Mandy and I both share. We both want you to hear this. Trust yourself and your children to go on a homeschooling journey together that will allow learning to unfold in amazing and even unexpected ways. So thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, bye for now. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.